Greetings, salutations, and welcome to After Action. I'm your host, Patrick Kreeger, and I'm joined once again by Jack.
Hello.
Today we watched something kind of different. It was a anime ensemble. What do you call that?
A series of 3 short films.
What's it called?
Memories.
Why don't you read the back of the box? Is there a back of the box? I didn't check.
There is a back of the box. This was totally on a whim. I only brought this over because I lost the DVD for a couple years, and I just happened to find it when I was digging through my mom's closet, looking for something else. I was looking for a David Attenborough documentary,
Which you found.
Yes, which I found, and I pulled it out, and here it is. This DVD that I've been looking for forever because it's out of print. It's great. It's one of my favorite animated anything ever. But let me read the back of the box. So, created by celebrated anime master Katsuhiro Otomo, made Akira and Rugenzi, Memories consists of 3 dazzling stories, each delivered with its own astonishing style. Magnetic Rose, directed by Koji Morimoto, who also directed The Animatrix, I guess, based on a manga short by Otomo, concerns 2 space travelers following a distress signal drawn into a magnificent world created by one woman's memories. In director Tensai Akamura's Stink Bomb, a young chemist accidentally transforms himself into an unstoppable biological weapon set on a direct course for Tokyo. Otomo's own Cannon Fodder depicts a day in the life of a city whose entire purpose is the firing of cannons at an unknown enemy. And right off the bat, I'll say, it's good that you didn't read the back of the box. So I feel like a part of the enjoyment from this is figuring out just what anything is happening. It is great, though, because they're all 3 short films. They're totally unrelated.
The picture on the back of the box spoils one of the big plot points.
Oh, yeah. What a bunch of garbage. It's a good picture, but yeah.
We're going to get into spoilers here really quick, so why don't we just tell our watch, don't watch?
Oh, watch. Definitely watch. I would say don't watch only under the circumstances that you really don't like animation. Even if you hate anime, I'd recommend watching this, because this none of these really look like anime. Kind of, but they're not. If you hate anime, you won't hate this, because it's not the same kind of. It doesn't have the same tropes, a lot of anime is associated with. But no, definitely watch. Try and find, if you can, a copy, or I don't know, find it online. Because
can I make a really bold statement?
Yes.
Watch before Akira.
Yeah.
If you're someone trying to get into anime.
Yeah, definitely. This definitely. Because I used to really not like anime, just because I kind of associated it with, a lot of the
Fair enough.
Cheesier stuff. But this actually was one of the first things I saw that really kind of opened my mind to the power of animated films from Japan.
Well, we're going to get into spoiler territory here very shortly, but I just wanted to say, yeah, it is this good smorgasbord of animation styles. Each one is very different while still being definitely, anime versus Western animation. But they do definitely have
not
their own
cannon fodder.
Okay, yeah, cannon fodder.
Cannon fodder looks like a French or German cartoon or something.
As soon as I said that, I felt like cannon fodder really doesn't fit the mold. And that's really interesting that they say that cannon fodder is the only story that's actually from the Akira guy.
Yeah.
Which I can see. I can see that.
Well, it had kind of the emphasis on all the industrial. They all kind of show off machinery, but
the Magnetic Rose could work for the same guy.
Yeah.
But not Stink Bomb. So let's get into spoilers here. Let's start off with, tell me about your favorite one, regardless of which order that is.
Well, I'm pretty sure this is not an unconventional opinion, but Magnetic Rose, hands down.
I would hate to say it, but I agree.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's most people's favorite, and I'm pretty sure that's why it's the first movie on the collection, because it's kind of starting off with a bang, and it's also the longest one too. It's and the most involved.
I would argue that it's in the right order. We talked about this. Well, what's the order?
Well, okay, it starts off with Magnetic Rose and then moves on to Stink Bomb and then ends with Cannon Fodder.
And I think that is a really good order for it because Cannon Fodder, I would argue, is the weakest of the three. But it is the one from the known director.
Right.
And then you have Stink Bomb, which is, I would argue, the weirdest of the three. And so you kind of want to get through it to get to the one from the known director. And then Magnetic Rose can stand alone. So if you're going to try to convince someone to sit down and watch these three things, it's probably good to start off with Magnetic Rose.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Especially like just thinking, I guess, from a maybe not marketing, but yeah, if you were to show anyone any one of these, you would definitely show the Magnetic Rose, and if you're gonna hook someone by showing them that, but at the same time, it's all kind of downhill from there.
Yeah,
and it
is downhill in that order.
Yeah, and I mean, I personally really like Cannon Fodder.
Why?
Well, okay,
I hated the art style.
I liked the art style. I mean, it's the animation is cheaper than the other two, but I don't mind that. I think the style's great. It's different. It is different. It's ugly, but it kind of has this. It reminds me a lot of like post World War One art, like Otto Dick's kind of art, just because it's and I mean it has this sort of World War One look where the whole city is just. Every building has like artillery sticking out of it.
For no apparent
Everyone's
reason.
wearing World War One helmets, and wearing like World War One looking uniforms. But I just really like it. I love the art. I love the art style. I love just the whole concept of this entire society based around firing artillery. And I also love kind of how that's presented because it's totally. It's a weird setting. It's this. I guess you would call it a dystopia.
People seem happy, more or less.
Yeah, but that's the funny thing is it's presented like a normal day, like a day in the life of these people, and they're not concerned at all with like the state that they live in. They're just almost all the dialogue is just characters making small talk or gossiping.
Yeah, the characters we follow seem to have a decent time, more or less. It's the world around them where you start noticing things.
Yeah, well, and you could also tell it's a Katsuhiro Otomo deal because one of his big strengths, like with Akira, was making the world seem believable. It almost seems like the world in some ways is more important than the characters. I mean, I would say Akira, it still had very strong characters, but he puts a lot more emphasis on the world than other like manga authors.
I hate to say it, but of the three, it probably does have the most complete world that you can understand.
Yeah.
Magnetic Rose definitely has a well thought out world, but not one that you'd necessarily get a full grasp of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Stink Bomb is just more or less our world.
Yeah, it's our world with more silly biological and chemical weapons.
Indeed. So, why don't you continue talking a little bit about, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name, the middle one. Not the middle one in terms of the order, but the middle one.
Cannon Fodder.
Cannon Fodder,
yeah. Well, to be honest, it's... I feel like there's less to talk about it with it, though, because it's very simple. There's no real plot. It's just a day in the life of these characters, and it's also very short. I think Magnetic Rose is about 40 minutes long. Stink Bomb is, I think, like 25 minutes or 30 minutes. And then Cannon Fodder is like 15 minutes.
I felt like Magnetic Rose could almost be a movie.
Yeah.
If there was a little bit more.
They could have stretched out Magnetic Rose to be a feature film. But I do like this omnibus format, this short film format of just having these unrelated films in a single collection.
All I really have to say still about Cannon Fodder is while it is a fun story, in air quotes, I really didn't like the art style. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I like Metal Slug. I like weird propaganda art. I like
it's like a Soviet wall art thing come to life.
Yeah, well, I mean, and a lot of the A lot of the characters look like propaganda posters. Like they look like how like a wartime propaganda poster would like demonize the enemy. You know, you portray the Japanese or the Germans as like devils.
Yeah,
It looks like that, but then they're all just normal people. So there's some irony to it, and or just how like I like the scene where there's all the workers at the big cannon, and when they leave their they clock out for the day. Like and the fact that it's a normal day job, like operating this gigantic artillery cannon,
it's just something people do.
Yeah, like it shows them punching in. But when they're all clocking out, there's like a protest group, and
they're not protesting the war.
They're not protesting the war. They're protesting the use of toxic chemicals that are released from the artillery shell or the propellant when it fires. Because it's hazardous to the workers, so it's a workers' rights protest.
Yeah, they don't care that they're at war, or at least they don't appear to care that they're at war, but they do care about the environment.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the health of the employees. And I like how that's this crazy setting presented in like a banal 9-to-5 kind of way, or like at the beginning where they're in this weird steampunk house where there's the window is like a B-17 bomber fuselage, and they're all wearing helmets, but then they're just talking about like the mom is just talking about tuition and how much it costs, and I just love that. It's just weird.
Music helmets.
Yeah, and everyone has a helmet. I mean, the little kid has a French, like a Belgian World War I helmet. There's like kids with German helmets. There's kids with those like British pith helmets.
I'm gonna instantly lose my helmet cred, being that I collect helmets. But that helmet is an Adrian style helmet.
Yeah, an Adrian helmet.
Thank you.
I think that's what it's called. But yeah, that's what the French and the Belgians wore in both World Wars.
Yeah, it was a good story. I just didn't like the art style, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the most different looking from the other two. Stink Bomb, more animish, exaggerated, but they still look pretty human.
Stink Bomb was the most typical of the animes.
Yeah. Magnetic Rose was like realistic looking.
Yeah,
the characters are rendered about as realistic as you could get in 2D animation.
Well, continue. You won't, why don't we finish up on Stink Bomb so we can end strong with Magnetic Rose?
Yeah, see, that's how I think it should have been ordered.
Well, true. Just watch the film backwards; it'll make more sense.
Well,
Stink Bomb.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what more there is to say on Stink Bomb other than I really like it and you should watch it.
What? You did not say that at the beginning of this thing.
What?
Yeah, when we sat down, you're like, this is the story of people making stupid decisions.
Oh, I was talking about cannon fodder. Did I say Stink Bomb?
Yeah, you said that about Stink Bomb.
Oh, whoops. No, I was talking about cannon.
No, you said you really liked Stink Bomb.
No, I said I really like cannon fodder.
Ah.
My brain doesn't work. Stink Bomb. So that is the second. That's like the middle.
Yeah, that's the middle.
It's confusing me because on the DVD cover they show the cannon fodder in the middle and Stink Bomb at the end, but that's not how it goes if you watch them in order. Anyway, so Stink Bomb. Yeah, that's my least favorite.
The cover art has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's kind of a confusing cover. I mean, they probably well, okay. So the cover what did you guess by looking at this?
Okay. 1800s vampire story. Post World War I or end of World War I story. And then something to do with cosmonauts.
Yeah. So cannon fodder is the most accurate. I mean, I'm glad they chose the woman from Magnetic Rose because if they just had another spaceman, it would kind of the graphic artist was probably like, we can't just have all spacemen because they look too similar. But anyway, Stink Bomb. So Stink Bomb is like a comedy, I would say.
Okay, pick an image to describe Stink Bomb that does better than the astronaut guy.
The guy riding his bike being shot at by the entire Japanese Air Force.
That fits in this format.
the guy just walking while a giant fart cloud is behind him wafting.
Okay,
it would fit in that frame.
Okay.
He's just standing holding a briefcase.
So tell us about Stink Bomb.
Stink Bomb is a 30-minute fart joke. I'm serious.
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
You're not wrong.
it's not a disgusting or a lowbrow fart joke, but it is a fart joke, and it is explicitly a comedy. And I mean, I'm not against comedy, but I have some problems with it. Okay, so plot-wise, main character is kind of a bumbling intern. He's not very bright, and he kind of just does what people tell him to, which
gets him in trouble.
It results in the mass destruction of the entirety of the Japanese Isles, effectively.
Well, we don't know for sure that
You don't know for it. There's going to be a lot of traffic accidents and air collisions that day. Okay.
Yeah, if they're not dead yet, they will be eventually.
Yeah. But anyway, so it is about this bumbling intern who works at like a pharmaceutical company who manufactures just drugs, but also chemical and biological agents for the government as part of their secret program.
Yeah, they were apparently working on a pill to make people immune to biological chemical weapons. That was what the guy was saying.
But what happens is the dummy, he comes in and he's a little bit sick that day, and he's sneezing, and someone else tells him to go take these experimental drugs that that the manager keeps in his office. He ends up taking the wrong drugs because they look kind of similar. He says, take the, the red pills in the blue bottle, but then he takes the red and yellow pills in the blue bottle. Passes out, he wakes up in the whole office, the whole company inside, everyone's knocked out. Everyone's just looks like they're dead or unconscious.
Yeah, he keeps saying that they're unconscious, but they're unconscious with their eyes open.
Yeah, they look dead. Let's just put it that way. The whole place goes on lockdown. And then some government spook tells him to come to Tokyo and bring
No, he's just the head of the company.
That's right. Yeah, well, someone important tells him in a panicked way to come to bring all the documentation and a sample to Tokyo. Long story short, it turns out the stuff he ingested turned him into a walking chemical warfare factory where he just emits a gas just nonstop that kills or knocks unconscious everyone around him, even animals.
Through gas masks.
Yeah, it penetrates gas masks, except for at the very end, the cosmonauts on the cover that do not correctly advertise this one. So it's a comedy because dumb guy causes problems is kind of a comedy trope, but also just the lengths by which the government and military go through to stop him, where they end up sending like the entire Japanese defense force to try and kill him. Like they're firing. It is a great scene. I mean, I'm not gonna say this is a bad short film. It's my least favorite for some reasons I'll get into. But there's this great scene where after trying to shoot him just with a rifle and then failing, just because the gas is getting through the gas mask and knocking people out, he drives off in a motorcycle to escape from the guy with the rifle, and then he sees some missiles come at him, and they fly past him and blow up the road behind him, and he goes through a tunnel, and he's like, oh, what was that? And then as soon as he gets to the other side of the tunnel, there's like 300 like helicopters and jets and bombers on the other side, and they all fire at him, and it's this wacky scene where just everything is just trying to kill him. You know, helicopters and jets and tanks. Tanks are firing at him, and there's naval ships off the coast firing ICBMs at him, and nothing can kill him. And it's just, and there's this crazy swing music playing, and the war room in Tokyo, everyone's panicking and pulling their hair out. Why can't we kill this guy? And it's really well animated. It is great animation. Like if you want to see good like jet porn and tank porn, like just aircraft and just all these really nicely animated jets, firing missiles and doing maneuvers and all this crazy stuff. And just the characters, like there's some great character movement, and like this movie has some great facial expressions. Just people, the generals are just infuriated, like, how is this happening? But my problem is it's a little bit of a contradiction, because you have all this not that great animation is contradictory to this, but you have all these like realistic looking vehicles like tanks and jets and everything, and they're all trying to kill them, and they can't. Like, yeah. I don't know, how does one guy survive a volley of 500 missiles?
Well, they make the argument.
They kind of explain it. They say that, the guidance systems are being messed up by the gas that his body's emitting. It has some kind of electromagnetic radiation that it emits.
Wow.
But then how does it mess up the tanks? And also, like, why would it mess up the tanks? Because it's not like tank sights are, like, tanks have electronic sights, but you can still...
Oh, they make that very clear, actually.
Yeah. Oh, no, they say that it messes up the sights, but then at the same time, like, they can't rotate the turret, but, like, tanks have, like, you can manually rotate the turret, but...
Maybe not Japanese ones. I don't know.
But it's just kind of it's a goofy situation, but at the same time, it's, like, it's presented in a somewhat realistic way. Yeah. It's a little bit of it's like Looney Tunes if the Looney Tunes...
were hyper-realistic.
Yeah, not hyper-realistic, but if Bugs Bunny looked like mostly like an actual rabbit, it would be and didn't. Okay, like Wile E. Coyote falls off a cliff and then he turns into like a flat pancake. But in this, there's no blood or gore, but I don't know. It's like Looney Tunes logic, but it's not necessarily in a Looney Tunes world, if that makes any sense. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a deal breaker for me. It's just, I don't know. It's frustrating to watch because it's like, this idiot ruins everything. I mean, I get it's a joke. It's funny, but at the same time, it's like,
Yeah, I have to say I didn't enjoy it as much as others. From an art perspective, I preferred it over Cannon Fodder. But in terms of the story, I preferred Cannon Fodder. Of course, Magnetic Rose is better on both accounts. But...
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone who has seen this is going to say Magnetic Rose is less good than either of the other two.
The story of Magnetic Rose is a little harder to follow than Cannon Fodder.
Yeah, but Cannon Fodder doesn't really have a story.
Oh, that's true.
It kind of has a story in the sense that, like, you waking up and doing stuff and then going to bed, it has a story.
Magnetic Rose is the thinking man's stink bomb.
Yeah. In the sense that they are both animated films.
Anyway, yeah, I have to say I like the art on Stink Bomb all right. The story was okay. I always wonder with certain punchlines and stuff like that if it's translation errors.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that gets lost in translation. Speaking of which, there's a very funny scene, unintentionally funny, where when it cuts back to the war room, you have all these Japanese government and military personnel, like, arguing and bickering and talking about how do we stop this, and one of the characters is this big black guy in a uniform, and he's supposed to be the American, like, liaison, I don't know what you call it, but the American military presence in Japan.
And he's just a colonel.
Yeah, but towards the end of it, when they, I guess we should talk about the solution to the story. With all this firepower, they can't kill him. The American general looks really Colonel. I keep saying general.
Because all the rest of the guys were like 4-star generals, and then there's him.
Yeah, I'm not a uniform guy, but...
and I also don't know the uniforms of the Japanese Self-Defense Force, so I could be wrong about that.
But he looks all smug, and the Japanese officers, they're all, this damn American, he's just going to run away. And then he presents a solution. But there's this... The whole thing's in Japanese. All these are in Japanese with subtitles.
Except all the writing is in English.
That's
all 3 of them.
That's pretty common in anime. Well, I mean, unless it's explicitly set in Japan, but I think a lot of the times Japanese things have English labels in addition to being in Japanese, just for.
I know that on watches, definitely they have a lot of English on them.
Yeah, I think it's just for the logistics of like being able to sell things outside of Japan.
True.
Without having to come up with like custom packaging.
And I also have to correct myself. I'm not for sure if the writing in Stink Bomb was in English.
I don't think it was for the most part.
Yeah, I
don't. In Cannon Fodder it was.
In Cannon Fodder it was.
Cannon Fodder had this cute like fake font for the English writing, where everything was in. It was in English, but it was the actual characters were like modified. Like the O had like a slash through it. I think the L and the R were backwards to kind of look Cyrillic.
Yeah.
The S was the SS logo.
Yeah, all the S's were plural.
Yeah, because it was supposed to all look like have totalitarian imagery.
It was good. It's good.
But anyway, what I was getting at with Stink Bomb was when one of the American soldiers comes up to the American colonel and says in the most broken English ever, he says something like, yes, sir, the helicopter has arrived, but it's like very clearly like not an English speaker.
Yeah.
It's like they just got a guy who, Japanese guy who
could read it phonetically.
Who could read English phonetically. And it's the most awkward, amazing thing ever.
I didn't even notice that they were speaking in English until you pointed it out.
Yeah.
It still had subtitles, by the way.
Yeah. So their solution, after trying to murder him with the entire Japanese Defense Force, is to... They fly in these like cosmonaut suits.
We keep calling them cosmonauts. That's my fault, but they're astronauts.
They're astronaut suits, space suits.
Yeah, they're from NASA. The latest and greatest from NASA. They can take a trench mortar at 5 yards.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Some space suits, because they're perfectly hermetically sealed and they're resistant to the electromagnetic radiation, and they end up subduing the dummy, and they end up bringing him to Tokyo in one of the suits. But then I guess they either didn't tell him, or he's just that stupid, and he ends up opening the suit and releasing all the gas into the war room.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Like, they supposed to put him in the suit? Why was he in the suit? Why was he in Tokyo? They said one of the soldiers made it back. When they're all in the war room, they talk about, one of the American soldiers is coming.
Yeah, I don't...
the Yanks.
Yeah, it's just there to be a funny punchline. Like, after all that, they finally got the solution. Oh, nope, the idiot ruined everything again. He opened his suit and flooded the whole war room with this either deadly or perfectly just this dangerous gas, and probably caused all of Tokyo to be fumigated in gas that makes you unconscious.
Yeah.
It's just disaster comedy, I guess you would say.
I suppose.
And it's just there just to be a punchline, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like why wouldn't they just have one of the astronauts just... Why not just lock him in a hermetically sealed chamber and then have the astronauts deliver the... They wouldn't even need to have the astronauts deliver it. Just have some guy do that. I don't know. It's silly and kind of frustrating, but it's worth watching. It's has some great animation.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it is what it is. Now, Magnetic Rose.
Yeah, well, that's definitely the crown jewel of this collection, and it's the first part of the series. If you watch it, I guess calling this a series is inaccurate, but first part of
anthology?
The collection. Yeah, anthology.
I think that's what they're called.
They call it an omnibus or an omnibus.
Omnibus.
Yeah. How pretentious. Yeah, it's more of a collection or an anthology. So Magnetic Rose is about...
Well, I guess 44 minutes long?
Yeah. No, it's more than that. It's great. It's a great 40... so it's in the future and you have like I guess these space garbage collectors.
They're cleaning up.
I guess they're more like I
roads.
guess they're garbage clean. I guess they're cleaners. They're like space cleaners because they're destroying. They're basically going around and obliterating space debris, like dangerous space debris, like satellites and space junk that could potentially pose a hazard. And they're just kind of schlubby guys. They're one of them smoking a cigarette inside the cabin of the ship. The Russian guy's just wearing overalls and not a shirt. And they get a distress call from somewhere, and they go to investigate, and it's this gigantic space station that looks like a rose.
Yeah, it took me way too long to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit obscure when you first see it. You just see space junk floating around and kind of a little blobby rose-shaped thing in the background.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out what all the junk was from, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's all just random junk floating in a ring around it, which is explained later. Yeah. As we get into that, but so they send. Well, okay. So there's 4 characters. There's, and they're all from distinct backgrounds. There's the German, who's the main character, is named Heinz. There's Miguel, I don't know, some South American, maybe he's Argentinian or Chilean or something. There's the Russian, who's like Ivanov or something.
Ivan, they call him Ivan at one point.
Yeah, and then there's the Japanese one. I forget what his name is, but they kind of just stay on the ship and aren't as important as characters. But so Miguel and Heinz go down to investigate the Rose station, and
I'm distracting Jack with the image.
Yeah, it's a cool picture, but kind of.
This was apparently the movie poster for this.
Yeah. Oh, was this actually given a theatrical release?
I don't know. But
I mean, I don't see why it couldn't have been.
It came out in 1995, and they do refer to it specifically as an anthology.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
So they go down to investigate, and they... at first, they assume it might be some kind of trap, like an SOS signal. They say, "Oh, this could be pirates trying to bait us into a trap." But when they, after getting through the exterior of the ship, which is all kind of predictably industrial-looking elevators and bulkheads, they get to the inside of the ship, and it's almost like a Victorian mansion on the inside with just gorgeous columns and very decorative, and they're all shocked by this, and they try to investigate, and they find they find like a holodeck, like a Star Trek holodeck kind of thing that just has this lush field, and they see this woman. Yeah.
Parts of it are holodeck, parts of it are real, parts of it are like nano constructed.
Yeah, it's all very. It's almost it reminds me a lot of The Shining. I'm sure it took influence from that.
Shining.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've. How would you say?
I've seen a lot of references and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it by osmosis.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to say it.
So they investigated the ship further, and they find all these just stuff belonging to this woman in this red dress who's prominently advertised on the the DVD box.
And they keep saying everything is fake, which I think is one of the translation errors.
Yeah, it might be a translation error.
Continue. Sorry, I don't.
Yeah, and so they figure that they're slowly trying to find information on who this woman is and why there's a distress beacon and what's going on inside this weird space station mansion thing. And they find out she was an opera singer from like 70 years before the movie takes place.
The far off future of 2005.
Yeah. And she was essentially like a international celebrity, but then
the most important celebrity.
Yeah, an opera singer in 2005. Well, actually, no, didn't they say 2030? I remember the date 2030, but
yeah, they talked about that. That's when I think her husband died.
Yeah, something like that. She had her husband died, and she became like a recluse or something like that. And so
she lost her voice, is what they said.
Yeah, and So they're trying to find her, and they see, paintings of her, and they keep saying her as like a hologram, like running around, and they find out, at one point they're in like a room with all these, like this dinner table with this whole meal set out, and Miguel tries to eat some of the food, but then he chokes on it, and he says like it's fake, or it's
he says it's fake.
The food is probably fake, but then
The
also
food might be fake.
Yeah, because obviously it wouldn't just be, it'd be rotten if it were real.
Yeah.
But then, like they go through the clothes, and the clothes just disintegrates. I don't know if it would be fake or just old.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be just old, just like the jewelry was supposed to be just old.
Yeah.
Because they hint at that with all the dead flowers and other things that are going on, that it's a lot of old stuff.
Yeah, it might be old. It's old, and then also just certain things are illusions because of the holograms.
Yeah, it's kind of trippy that way.
Yeah, there's like a surreal aspect where they're like there's so many good scenes, like Miguel hallucinates, or maybe not a hallucination, but a hologram or some kind of trick. That the woman, her name is Ava. She approaches him with a bouquet of flowers, and then she disappears as soon as she gets up close to him. But then the flowers are still there. But then when Heinz comes in, the flowers are like rotten and old and disintegrated.
From 2005.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's where I get that number from.
Yeah. So they don't know what's real and what's going on. And an important scene that you don't realize is important initially, but becomes very important later on is I think Miguel's ruffling through some like something, but then Heinz notices a little ballerina doll, like a wind-up ballerina doll, like moving, like just moving towards the edge of a table, just from its mechanical movement, and then it falls off the table and shatters like a little girl ballerina doll.
And he just barely misses catching it.
Yeah, and he he looks weirdly panicked for just that happening, and that becomes important later. But they keep going through the ship, and they eventually Miguel, I suppose you could say, gets seduced by Ava in like a holographic hallucination.
He's supposed to somehow remind her of his husband, or her husband.
Yeah.
They don't look too much alike, but
I think that ties into later on, but and he starts to believe that she's real, and he's like talking to her, and the people on the ship, Ivan and the Japanese guy, are confused, like who's he talking to, and he ends up essentially getting sucked into some kind of other realm or something with her, and Heinz is trying to rescue her. And him, did I say her? There is a rescue her aspect that comes out shortly. Yeah, and so he ends up panicking, trying to get off the ship, but then you get a flashback. It's hard to say if I guess nothing. It's not really a flashback. God, there's that great scene where he suddenly, you think it's a flashback. He's at his home on Earth with his family and his little daughter, who's probably like 6 or 7, and then his wife, and they're having a breakfast, and he just looks content and happy, but then he notices some of the flowers are like made of the weird nanite stuff.
Yeah.
And you keep seeing,
and they start rotting instantly.
Yeah, and then he panics and he realizes he's not, in reality.
They say it's been like 30 minutes.
Yeah, and you see the his wife is suddenly Ava, and he panics and he jumps back at the table, and then he notices everything is made of this nanite illusion stuff. And you notice he pulls out his gun and machine guns the Ava nanite statue and blows up everything except the daughter.
Yeah.
And I think by this point Miguel is just totally lost. Like he tries to run up and get him, but then he just disappears along with a crowd of holograms, I guess, into nothingness.
I think I do fundamentally understand what this short is about, but I want to talk about that at the end.
Yeah, well, it kind of spells it out for you. But then after Miguel's gone, and he's panicking because the the ship that they came in on is starting to be pulled magnetically into the rose, hence magnetic rose, and is being destroyed. And they're panicking and they're saying, get off that, or we're going to have to leave you on that ship. But then, as he's trying to escape, the room he's in, like that gigantic chamber, just starts, like machinery just comes out of the ground or out of the oil or whatever that substance was, and just things start collapsing, and all of a sudden a structure comes out he's on, and it's what?
It's not machinery being thrown at him. It's random pieces of nanites. The nanite things are forming like random things and coming at him.
Well, one thing forms, and it's his house, and it's all destroyed, like the house in the flashback / hallucination. And he's on the roof, and he's starts to kind of become really, of course he's uneasy, but he just becomes really unnerved. And he sees his daughter crawl out from the top window and walk towards him, and he's, telling her, no, don't, turn back. And then she slips and she falls off the house and presumably dies. And then it's all over the place, like the kind of the locations of the characters keep changing, but it's like a bad dream. It's like a nightmare. And he sees her, but then he sees another of her with Ava, like at the door, and she's like, come. Ava says, come, with us, and come inside, you'll be happy here.
It was giving him the choice: face the cold hard reality or come be with the comfort.
Yeah, obvious implication, his daughter
in real life,
in reality fell off the roof of the house. And I guess I'm not emphasizing that. That's a powerful scene. Like, that is an amazing scene.
I haven't been moved by animation that way in a long while.
Yeah, just God, yeah. And so he's about to, fall for it to go into the house, but then he I think at one point he loses his wallet, but then he sees the wallet on the ground and looks.
Yeah, he loses the wallet when when something happens earlier, and the wallet clearly falls off of him, which is weird that they keep re-showing the wallet.
Yeah, well, it's because it had his ID, and part of it was, snapping back into reality and seeing his identity and seeing the photo of himself with his daughter and his wife, and the contrast that his wife isn't there. This Ava is in place of his wife in this hallucination, and he snaps back into reality and says, he basically spells out kind of the theme of the short film here. He says, you can't escape into memories, the title of this omnibus.
Roll credits.
Yeah, and then he just shoots the hologram. It turns out to have just been a machine, and destroys her, or at least destroys that particular iteration.
Never destroys her.
Yeah, destroys the hologram, I guess, not her. And then that causes the false daughter to just disintegrate into the nanite stuff, and then. At this point, the ship that they came on in is just being sucked into the magnetic rose, and Ivanov is just saying, well, at this point we're all dead. I'm gonna fire the what was it? They called it the analyzer cannon, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, the analyzer cannon,
which is built up. It doesn't come out of nowhere. Like the movie opens up with them using it to destroy like a satellite wreckage, and it's this. I guess it creates like a black hole and just collapses everything into a
point.
Just a point, yeah. And so they fire that into the ship, which into the magnetic rose, which it shows it burrow into it.
Yeah, it does a ton of damage, but doesn't
destroy it. Because you see the gigantic computer system that I guess makes up Eva's consciousness. It isn't explained if it's actually her or if it's an AI that thinks it's her, or
I was gonna say, do you want to get into theories, because I have a theory on this.
Yeah.
So my theory is that this entire satellite, this entire magnetic rose, this thing was built as a refuge for Ava, the real woman, right? Eventually the woman died. Spoiler alert, we find that out, that she's dead.
I mean, it's kind of obvious considering the time gap.
Yes, and the back of the book.
The back of the DVD box spoils it.
One of those circle books.
Yeah, it shows her corpse. I mean, maybe you wouldn't know it's her, but
So, okay, so she dies, right? And so now you have this like hyper amazing computer that's designed to make people happy. Okay, I'm going to go out on that limb and say that the supercomputer that's running this whole thing was always working to make Ava happy. Okay?
yeah.
So, Ava dies. The computer starts getting confused. It tries to find her husband, which was the big thing about her like being missing her husband. And so it's been trying to track down her husband by luring in random men.
Yeah, and that is something that's established. I think at one point Heinz even says, like, as the analyzer cannon is just sucking everything from the inside. Well, not everything, but is causing all this damage on the inside of the ship and kind of creating a mini black hole that's just sucking all this
Random
material from the inside of the ship. You see bodies, like astronaut suits with skeletal remains inside them, get flung past Heinz. And he says something like, the bodies of her other victims.
Yeah, and so I think that's the key thing, and I think that's one of the things that that it was trying to do is convince Heinz that this was his wife.
Yeah. That's a believable theory.
I don't know.
It could also be that it's literally her consciousness uploaded to a machine, and she's trying to
I didn't think
replace, trap other men to replace. I don't know.
I'm basing this all off of one line that Heinz says.
Yeah, he says the computer's gone mad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And you know what? Like, this is one of those things, like, it's good that it doesn't have an explicit explanation, because you need mystery, especially in films like this.
Yeah, you can debate
that keep you guessing, because you explain everything and then you start getting like plot holes, whereas if you leave things a little bit vague, then you kind of things write themselves, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. If you leave things a little bit vague, it hides the other things. Also, like I was saying, it allows us to debate this. It allows us to talk about this. It encourages you, dear listener, to go out and watch this thing and make your own conclusions. It also might be translation errors.
Yeah.
There is that. Do you have anything more you want to say on this?
Well, the very ending, the ship with Ivanov and the Japanese fellow ends up being destroyed, and then Heinz ends up getting sucked out into space.
Somehow gets his helmet on, but
that bothered you way more than it should have.
Yes, it did.
He doesn't have his helmet on when he's inside, and then when he's outside in space, he has his helmet on. But there's a lot that happens in between him getting sucked out and, because it shows him get sucked out, and then it kind of hard cuts to a scene with Ava and her husband who died, sitting in like a gazebo in kind of this heavenly, idyllic garden, talking, saying like, "I'll love you forever." And also, was it either? Am I remembering things wrong? Because I've seen this multiple times, but I can't remember. Is it implied that Ava actually killed her husband because because he stopped loving her and she couldn't accept that, so she murdered him and went into reclusion and tried to constantly live in this state of reliving her own memories of being in love with him and sharing that happiness with him, and she couldn't.
Nope, you're on point.
Yeah,
you're on point.
But as they're saying that, we'll always love each other or something, then it cuts again to just the interior of the ship, just one of the rooms, and it shows a bedroom, and then it shows the at this point, just ancient corpse of Ava.
It's like 60 years old.
Well, okay, but she's a skeleton, so it totally rotted away. And it's obviously her because it has the dress and the rose and everything. And so she's been dead all this time, and it's an AI, or it's her consciousness just in perpetual existence on this ship, and it's just been trapping unfortunate people like a siren. Yeah. And then it cuts back to Heinz, and he's floating around in space. Survived, but obviously he's probably not going to make it much further. But
Well, there are other ships on their way.
hey, maybe.
No, there are. They mentioned that at the very beginning.
Really?
Yeah. When they get the distress signal, they like there's this whole thing about the other ships coming, and they're like, "Well,
So
we're the
Heinz
first
may
ones."
live on, and that's a great. It's
Heinz
a good
might
thing
live
because
on.
I don't think I can't think of many characters that have that little screen time that I've actually cared that much about.
Yeah, he's a really moving character.
And he goes through a little interesting development because he starts off kind of cold and distant and professional. All the other characters seem a lot more animated. Like Miguel he's kind of this,
Latin lover sort of type.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost a little bit stereotypy, but they all seem a lot more joyful, or just maybe not joyful, but just more energetic or more just animated than Heinz. But he slowly unravels over the course of the film, and you see his inner turmoil at having to deal with the loss of his daughter, which is just built up beautifully.
No, it really is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it is incredibly moving, and it does show that animated stuff is capable of stirring emotions in the human spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just an interesting mix of all these different things, too. Like, I mean, the whole anthology is, but even Magnetic Rose itself, because it starts off as a sci-fi, but then
There's
it has
some horror aspects to it.
but then it's a horror, but then also it has kind of this just not going into it too deep, but just the philosophy of just maybe not philosophy, but just the misguided belief of this woman unable to deal with the tragedy of a broken heart escaping into her own memories.
Can't live in the past.
Yeah, and the contrast with the main character Heinz, who has to who has dealt with heartbreak and who deals with it by just
He doesn't forget.
yeah
He doesn't forget. That image of his daughter is with him every single day, but he moves on and continues working.
yeah.
So, anything else? Any last words?
I mean, I guess little things like the music in Magnetic Rose is great.
The music in Stink Bomb was good too.
Yeah, that very different music. I guess Cannon Fodder had its own music, but it kind of sounded like
It's forgettable.
yeah, it sounded like the Warcraft 3 soundtrack. But Stink Bomb has kind of this goofy, like swing jazz, chaotic sounding music.
Yeah.
And then Magnetic Rose has it has what do you call that, like incidental music, where it has like this opera soundtrack, but that actually
Plays
in the movie, in the world of the movie itself, because Ava is the opera singer, and she's at some points in the movie it's not literally being played, but then at some points it is. Like,
is there non-diegetic sound in this, or non-diegetic music in Magnetic Rose?
Yeah, when they I think when they first really start learning about Eva, Heinz is walking through that. I guess you would say it's like a museum of her accomplishments, where there's all the awards on the walls, and in the middle of the room there's like a hologram of Ava singing.
Yeah, and then the little ballerina doll does the music too, and
yeah, and just the music itself is great. It just I don't know if it's like an actual.
No, I've been reading up on this film while we've been talking about it, and yeah, the music that was written for this film was hardcore. Like, they had a really hard time writing the music for this.
Oh, so it isn't like an actual.
It might be
historical.
It might
opera.
be.
I don't know anything about opera or classical music or anything like that, but
it might be. But it was definitely composed for this particular.
It works gorgeously in the movie, and it's not just there to be beautiful. It ties in with the movie itself. It's such an excellently produced, just work of art. Like, I honestly can't say enough good. It might be my favorite animated thing ever made.
Well, to round this conversation out, I want to bring it back to a point you asked earlier. Was this ever released in theaters? Well, you can go see it in theaters next year.
Really?
Yeah, it's coming out 2020.
What?
That's not a joke.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's coming to theaters in the United States in 2020.
Really?
Yeah, so go watch Memories.
What? Where?
I don't know exactly where, but according to the Wikipedia article on this, you know how movies will have like, you know, plot and reception and da da da. So under releases for this film, it says will be released in U.S. film theaters summer of 2020.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's go. Like,
That's not a joke.
G Kids.
Yeah, G Kids.
G Kids. That makes me really not want to see it. I don't know what G Kids is, but it has kids in it. They're probably gonna like add like a horrible English dub. They're probably gonna remove anything like dark or violent, and it's gonna be like I really that sounds awful. Like I don't. Wow. Yeah. I love how my excitement immediately went to apprehension.
Well, let's
caution as soon as I saw that. I don't know what I've never heard of G Kids, but
apparently
G and kids in the same.
Well, okay, they're the people who brought the Studio Ghibli films to the U.S.
Yeah.
And A Cat in Paris, The Rabbi's Cat.
The Rabbi's Cat. What is that?
I don't know. The movie they brought to the U.S. Nocturna, Welcome to the Space Show.
What the? Wait, I'm looking at this too.
April and the Extraordinary World.
The Lego movie?
No.
No. It's I'm looking at G Kids. Is okay. It says the
Howl's Moving Castle.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just localized that. But the company has gained prominence since 2010 by garnering a series of Academy Award nominations for little-known underdog films, beating out beating out big-budget American films such as the Lego Movie and blah, 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 blah. I misread that.
Indeed.
So okay, so it probably won't be terrible, because, I mean, I've seen, like, all the localizations of the Ghibli movies, and, yeah, like The Wind Rises, like, that wasn't a bad localization, but
so go see Memories, coming to your local theater this summer.
I'm just going to say a little bit of apprehension at the potential of this being ruined with a horrible English dub, but I don't remember the Ghibli movies having horrible English dubs, so I don't know.
I'm trying to think if I saw My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah, I never actually saw that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Isn't that way? That's like the generic, like, normie anime movie that everyone's seen. If they've seen.
What's the one with the bathhouse?
The bathhouse.
The one with the bathhouse.
I don't.
The one that's all about a bathhouse.
Oh, Spirited Away.
Spirited Away, yeah.
Yeah, no, that one. I think that was like. Yeah, that one like the Oscar for like best animated film.
I don't know if I saw that as an English dub or not.
Yeah, the dubs for Ghibli movies aren't bad.
Well, anyway, let's wrap this thing up. We've been at it for almost an hour, and no one wants to hear us yak for more than an hour.
Go see this right away. Torrent it or buy it if you can buy it. If you can buy it on DVD, if it's still in print somewhere, if Amazon has a used copy, buy it or watch it via some other means, or see it in 2020 when they hopefully don't give it a horrific dub. They probably won't. Like, their list of accomplishments doesn't look bad.
I would totally love to see a high-res copy of Magnetic Rose.
Yeah, you know what?
We watched this in DVD, which for those of you who don't know is like 480p or so.
A Blu-ray would be great too. Like they might release it in a Blu-ray.
Yeah, they might release it in a Blu-ray. I don't think I need to see Cannon Fodder in high def.
Yeah, Cannon Fodder is a little low rent, but I still like it.
But Magnetic Rose in high definition with a decent dub.
Cannon Fodder was the inspiration for the RTS game I'm working on.
I could actually see that.
Yeah,
the
RTS game that I'm going to work on for my whole life. I'm going to advertise it on this channel.
I was going to say, do you want to plug it?
You want to plug it? Well, at this point, it's barely a game. It's just a graphics mod for an existing engine. But I'm working on a real-time strategy game in the vein of Command and Conquer, and I guess a little bit of StarCraft, a little bit of Supreme Commander. I'm gonna bring it back because RTS is a dead genre, but I'm gonna bring it back.
So, our dear listener, go out and check out his game eventually. When his game is published, there'll be a link in the dibbly-doo.
Yeah, in 2030. In 2045.
In 2045, when his game comes out, there'll be a link in the dibbly-doo. All right, so, until next time, dear listener, see you out there.